Hello, hello everyone! Welcome to another World of Warships Legends extravaganza today, right? I am your host, Phoenix61. We are rocking the Pommern. Sorry for the excessive German Battleship games this week, but I did say that, like, if I didn't get the Azur Lane Bismarck Commander from the free Azur Lane crate that you get from doing the campaign that's currently almost over, that I would buy the Azur Lane Bismarck Commander, right? So, because I was interested in it, and I had the doubloons, I'm like, you know what, let's do it. So this marks the second commander that I've ever paid money for, or at least paid doubloons for, right? So you get some doubloons here and there, right? So, but whatever. Anyway, so we are rocking Azur Lane Bismarck Commander, and we're seeing how it does with the Pommern, with my secondary battery build in the Pommern. Now, I am not the greatest with the German battleships. I don't play as them too much. I do think they're fun, though. Like, it is definitely fun to do brawler builds in this, so it's, yeah, so that's what I don't know if we've gone full-on brawler, but you'll see how we've set up the commander at the end of the video. I'll kind of go through that and show you, right? So, but yeah, we get a little bit lucky and don't take too much damage from the shots that hit us, and then we dished out a little more than what we received, right? So I always count that as a plus. And then, yeah, here, there are two destroyers in the game, right? So we have to be a little cautious coming around this corner here. So we did trip the sonar to make sure we were picking up any torpedoes that could be coming through this alleyway here, right? So if I am on the other side and I'm in a destroyer, I like to send some through there. So that's like why I dropped them there, right? And then I'll send the torpedoes up towards this Hawk, because there's this cruiser here plus the Hawk. If either one of them turn this way, right, they would be able to meet our torpedoes. And then we do trigger the secondary battery booster there too, and then I do take a little bit of a right turn here to try and get those rear turrets on that Hawk, but then I'm like, oh my gosh, the island, it came out of nowhere. It's been there this whole time. So yeah, so it looks like their destroyer went out wide, so that is fine because they ran into our destroyer, right, picked them up, right? So hopefully we'll see if we can't help out here. We can get rid of this small end, that would be huge. Instead, it was the other way around, and we lost our destroyer, so that is no bueno. Can our secondaries finish them off? Like, between us and, like, I bet you this battleship that's by me, it probably isn't shooting at him, right? I try really hard not to blame other people for losses. But this is going to be one of those games. It's going to be a struggle bus game, you guys. Here it comes. So Siegfried, he knows we've got torps because A, there's a smart player, or B, he saw us shoot those other torpedoes at him, right? But I think, does he have torpedoes? He might be sticking his nose out just enough so he can send torpedoes up this way. But so we'll fire our rear turrets at him and hit the island again. I mean, that island should be gone by now. We've hit it twice. It's just sand, right? We should have carved something into that. Torps at the Hawk. The nice thing is these torpedoes on this Pommern reload pretty quick. Sends 4, and then also we'll use our damage con there just because we got 2 fires, right? And then we saw the torpedoes are going to miss, right? And then that's not like the Brandenburg, where like the torpedo tubes just get destroyed like instantly, like if they get sneezed on, like they're just gone, right? So these actually last and are actually useful, right? So we've been shooting them, but haven't gotten any hits, right? So we'll dump torps back at the Hawk. I always kind of just take those shots because, why not? Doesn't hurt. If he starts moving forward, he'll meet them. And then we'll eye up the Siegfried here. There needs to be another ship named Roy. And then if they play together, they get some sort of special perk bonus, right? Somebody slapped him pretty good. We'll see what we can do. We'll see if we can add to that. You can't have high hopes for the main batteries when you on these German battleships when you do a secondary build, right? Like, you could absolutely make them better with commander perks and stuff, but we've gone all out secondaries for the most part, right? But then we did turn away. I noticed, like there's just so many enemy ships over here, right? So we went defensive mode instantly, right? Like just because we're outnumbered, they're pressing, let them come and pick them off as you can, right? Like that's kind of the name of the game when you run into this situation, right? We're still doing pretty good on health given the circumstances here, right? And then we'll keep, we're getting defends on this Brandenburg. Yeah, see, that's the one where I'm like, I bet you he doesn't have torpedoes anymore. Like, by this, he's got so little health. You don't have to worry about that. This Rasoya's got plenty of health, though. And then, so we finish him off, the Siegfried off. He was on fire, and I didn't realize at the time. It's always, like, hard to tell when, like, the secondary batteries are going. You can't, it's like, is that damage ticking up because of secondary hits, or is that because of, like, a flood or a fire or something, right? So Rasoya's coming in a little too hard, but our, it's understandable because our battleship is almost dead, right? Or those torps from the, oh no, some of those have got to be, those ones might be from the Brandenburg, but the others are definitely from that destroyer that was out there, right? So we're getting some decent hits here, and somebody else has hit him pretty good too. And then, yep, we slowed down to make sure he got back into, since we're not taking hits anymore, no one's picking on us. Oh, yeah, nice work. No one's picking on us, so we'll back up to make sure we stay in secondary battery range, right? And then we trigger the booster again. And then I'm turning, we're turning in towards him just because, so we're not as broadside, but he's not even looking at us, so it's really not that big of a deal. And then, yeah, he's going to be gone. Oh, we finally get a Citadel hit on him there. And there's just one guy left. And what's frustrating here is if you look at the minimap, oh my gosh, small end? Yes, we need to get this guy off the board. Like, this is what you gotta do, guys. Like, take those shots at those destroyers. People drive me nuts when they don't shoot at destroyers, right? So, that shot we took earlier, right? We shot at him before, and I think we got some hits, and then we definitely got some secondary battery hits, right? Who knows? But, yeah, so that made him weak enough that somebody could finish him off there, and we took that shot, right? So we are racking up the kills here. 3 kills, 96,000 damage. This is probably one of my better Pommern games, guys, because this is a ship I don't play as a lot, but I'm getting better at it. Of course, like all things, when you practice, you get better, right? But so yeah, not a normal play for me, right? But yeah, see if we can't finish off this Hawk for a 4th kill. And then, yeah, if you look at the minimap, like, I was fully expecting, like, with all the enemy ships on this side, I was fully expecting our team to take over by the A cap, and for that to be the strong side, right? But everybody's gone over there. Like, it's me, this Azur, and the carrier, right? And so this Azur, like, I don't know, I wasn't paying attention to what he was doing this whole game, but, and then he's clearly being eyed up by the carrier right now, right? So he's got to maneuver to try and make sure he doesn't take these torpedo hits from this carrier, right? But here's what, like, drives me nuts, and this is when I'm like, I try not to blame other people. I try to maintain a positive attitude when I play this game, right? Like, because most of the time I'm like, you're going to lose some, and you're going to win some, and it's going to be, like, you're going to get you're going to get match made with bad players, and you're going to get match made with good players. But this guy goes right into B. Like, he should be, I would be full reverse if I was him right now. But he's just going to sail into B, and there's a Musashi or Yamato out there, like, that has a lot of health. Like, why go out there? Like, so, like, maybe he was thinking he could, like, move, like, left and stay, keep some of those islands in between him and, the Musashi, but there's carriers plus destroyer that's going to spot you, right? Like, so you're going to get spotted. So we're going to do the conservative thing. Like, the points right now are pretty even, right? Like, so I'm like, all right, I'm going to get this zone, and, like, hopefully he can survive for a little bit, but he goes down pretty quick here. Like, yeah, it's a Musashi out there with tons of health, right? Like, just, and, like, I don't want to press forward too far because then they're going to start hitting me. Yeah, so he takes some torpedoes from the airplanes and gets finished off by the Musashi. We got a good shot on the Musashi here. It's just, you know, we don't have the best accuracy build here because, you know, we've done a secondary build, right? But we land some decent hits. Like, that's pretty good. Like, I'll take those, right? For this ship, this build, this situation, like, I'll take them, right? And so we move. I'm trying to move behind this island to not be spotted, but then of course the airplanes are picking us up, right? So we see the shells coming in. I'll trigger our last heal here. Just because, like, I do feel like you get a little bit more out of the heals if you can trigger them as you're, you know, as you're taking damage, because you get some of that heal, and then if as the time runs out on it, you ever notice, like, we're gonna be here now, we're like full health, and there's like, you know, or filled up, and there's like a couple seconds left sometimes. So, like, yeah. Anyway, that's my theory, my little quip with how to use the heals. But yeah, so we're like in this just like lose situation, right? And so I really wanted to turn in towards him there, but like we would have just been even more broadside. Plus the airplanes are coming, so we got to try and dodge them, right? So what sucks about this is with this, I think he's in a Kaga, right? Like, so they drop 4 at a time. And so he's going to circle around, and because we slammed on the brakes to dodge these torpedoes, right, he's going to have a nice easy shot on us for this second round, right? So we'll slam on the gas, and then we're going to turn in towards him, turn in towards the torpedo bombers, right, to see if we can avoid some. But yeah, I'm going to take these shots. So we missed the one, so it looks like he only had 2 planes left by the time we shot some down. And then we get a shot off at the destroyer, and then decent angle here for the Musashi, right? We've got the zone capped. Like, I gotta get turned around, right? Like, so that I can go and challenge these guys. Because now that we lost our Azure, they capped that middle zone. Now they're way up on points, right? And what was frustrating is, I don't know if it already happened or if it's this run here, but our carrier went after their carrier. And so I'm like, another situation where I'm like, come on, like, that's just like, that's an obvious play, like, not to do. So, like, he was over there, not spotting the destroyer, you know, like, he could have picked up the destroyer. You know, you guys know I hate, like, people that are like, you know, you've got this one job when you're the carrier, right? But, like, so we know their destroyer's off that way, so I'm going to dump torpedoes that way. But, yeah, so he was over there before. Now he's, you know, like, floating around this Musashi. Or flying around this Musashi. I can't believe I get away with not hitting that torpedo on the port side there. But, like, I think the only time, like, when you're in this situation, the only time it makes sense to go after their carrier is, one, if it's low on health and you can actually finish it off, or there's enough remaining players on your team that they can shoot it and finish it off. Like, if you need that, like, last-minute point swing, that's when it makes sense. But here, I'm like, it did not make sense for him to go after the carrier, right? So we get sunk trying to dodge all these torpedoes coming from their destroyer and their carrier, right? I mean, that Musashi would have had a good angle on us, too, right? Like, we could only survive. We're only going to survive so long. But I felt like we did good this game. 130,000 damage. We got 228 secondary battery hits, right, with this Azur Lane build. So I do like the commander. Whether it's worth the 5,000 doubloons, I would argue, like, meh. Like, you know, like, it's just cool to have a different commander. Like, if you're really into the game, I think it makes sense to spend a little cash here and there. But, like, it's nothing that can't be overcome. And I feel this way about, like, all the paid commanders, right? It's nothing that can't be overcome by a little bit better skill, right? Like, it's just having, like, just a little bit of an edge of, like, just being a little bit smarter of a player, you know, watching your positioning, where you're going, what are your teams doing, like, paying attention to the mini-map, right? Like, all those other things will always trump, you know, the paid chips and the paid commanders, at least in my opinion, right? You know, you put an equal player, you know, 2 players that are equal against each other, and one's got the paid commander and they're both fully upgraded, right? Like, then maybe he's got a little bit of an edge, but it's small, in my opinion, right? So their destroyer is picking up the C spot, so we can see that getting captured. But, you know, the carrier does manage to finish off the Musashi, which is, like, great. And if you didn't know this, you can instead of the projectile, you can, you know, push A to, you know, follow around in their airplanes, which is kind of fun and cool to do, you know, if you're like me and you're like, all right, I want to watch the rest of this game. Right? But he's the only guy left. The only guy left is the carrier, right? So Yeah, and of course he's going to go, instead of, like what I would do, like, granted there's 10 seconds left, but, like, I would go after C and see if you can't get, like, a defend banner or something, right, for that last little ditch of XP in the game, right? Like, guys, I like me some XP to see where we end up on the leaderboard at the end of the game, right? So we will see where we end up on the leaderboard here. I think we did pretty good, right? That's pretty good for me, for the Pommern, right? So we do take the top spot for our team. Of course, you know, when you lose, you don't get that little extra bonus. I think when you win, it's like a 1.5 multiplier or something on your score, right? So we would have been, like, pretty competitive with those other guys over there, right? And then, of course, we do walk away with some cash, right? We had a rare credit booster going, though, so that helped quite a bit. And we do have premium going, right? So wouldn't have been as great, but yes, this is Azur Lane Bismarck build here, right? So you can see in the upgrades in the top left over here right now, but that are, you know, basically we picked all the secondary mods, right? So, but yeah, so her base trait, secondary reload time, and better accuracy, right? And then Franz von Hipper is a must for inspirations for any secondary battery build across any country, right? And then Hans Geisler, we get a better reload time for the secondaries, right? So so for my other countries, now that we have Azur Lane Bismarck, I take out Hans Geisler and I put Azur Lane Bismarck, this commander, in those inspiration spots, right? So damage control party, Porcupine, yeah, so is a must. And then this is her, you know, this is another unique thing to her. I can't say that what it's called, but basically if your secondary batteries are active, you get less damage, right? So, and then Master Mechanic gives us an extra repair party charge. I'm always, like, torn between that and Properly Meticulous, because, like, you get the extra reload time here, plus the, you know, if you've got the secondary battery booster consumable thing, that'll last even longer, right? So it's always, like, you know, it's always that one's the one I'm the most torn on which to use, right? And then, of course, I'm using Will to Rebuild for the legendary perk. If you're going all out brawler, especially if you're solo pushing into zones, running with scissors is probably a better choice there. But for my personal play style, you know me, I'm always using Will to Rebuild. So yeah, if you see me struggling out there in the open waters, come hang out and we can die together, right? But if you don't have Azur Lane Bismarck, I would use this guy. It's not Badger the Blacksmith. That's just a Commander Geist, so that's just the cosmetics, right? So it is Auto Celiacs, you can see up in the top right, right? So these Commander Geists aren't really the commander. It's just the overlaid, you know, it's a visual, right? So same things here for the inspirations. And then, yeah, you can see he's got Porcupine. It's almost the same stuff except for this Advanced Schemes, which is a secondary battery focus, right? So this is just as good of a commander to use as in comparison to Azur Lane Bismarck. The only thing that's really different is this base trait too, right? Is AP shell damage, which I wouldn't complain about. Like, that's still good, right? So, but we are using Azur Lane Bismarck now. That is our Pommern video for the day. Like I said, I think I've got one more you know, German Battleship video to show that we'll probably put out there tomorrow, right? Just because this is the last week to buy any of these Azur Lane Wave 5 commanders, right? So I just wanted to get them out there, like, while we're using them, right? In case anyone's on the fence about whether they want to get that or not, right? So I am doing World of Warships videos every day, guys, so make sure to follow the channel so that we can chat again tomorrow.